Well, from my perspective, first off, the way you teach football 25 years ago is the same way you still teach football now. You just get the enforcement of making sure that the kids do it properly is the important part. I haven't changed the way I teach a guy to tackle in the 20-something years I've been coaching. It's just that you probably are a little more conscious of making sure they're doing it correctly than what you maybe were before. And the problem you run into is and the same thing with general injuries. That's why the weightlifting program is so important for us, because it helps you to prevent those. You can't necessarily prevent an ACL injury, but you can prevent the hamstrings and the shoulder injuries and those type of things, through the weight training program that we use. But I can tell you, I was unfortunate, one of the unfortunate ones, to have a young man that broke his neck playing football, that played for me. And he is currently paralyzed from the neck down and will never be able to walk again. And I can tell you that we have it on video, and we never had to go through any lawsuits or anything, but I can tell you it was an absolute textbook hit. Absolutely perfect the way you would teach it. Head across, not straight up, head across the bow on the football. Ran through the guy. Everything was exactly the way anybody would teach it. And for 23 minutes I had to do CPR on him to make sure that he didn't die. And so I guess the concern there is that you do the best you can to make sure that you can sleep at night knowing that I did everything I could to make sure that kid was safe. And then you make sure that we supply the proper equipment that will allow them to be safe. And the helmet companies they passed a law, which is really, I don't know about y'all, it's killed us the last couple of years, because any helmet over 10 years old can't be reconditioned. So you had to replace them all. We had to replace 60 helmets last year because they were over that 10-year mark. So I think it's a joint thing. Everybody's trying to find ways to fix the issues, but we just have to understand we do the best job we can.
Weight room, and this guy is one of the best at it. And but injury prevention is the weight room. I mean, if you're lifting them and stretching and doing the multi-joint movements that you need to do in there, then you're giving your kids the best chance to go out and perform with less injury. Now, can you promise them they're not going to get hurt? No, you can't do that. But I'm a firm believer, and just not time to get on soapboxes, but every sport ought to be lifting weights. They ought to all be lifting weights. Football, basketball, baseball. If they play a sport, they need to be lifting. They need to be running. They need to be working on agility. They need to be working on flexibility. They need to be working on speed. And one, they're going to have more character, because they don't always want to go in that weight room and lift. And when you tell them you ain't got a choice, I have bad days, but I come on to work, get up under that rack and let's roll. Then they're going to be a better athlete and win more ball games and have more character. And they're not going to quit on you in the fourth quarter, but they also are conditioning their body to long games. I mean, those basketball kids. I watched our bunch the other night fight and claw like crazy in Jay, and they played 4 full quarters of man-to-man defense, and it was in your face man-to-man. Those kids are wore out, And if you train like you're supposed to, then it's going to help them, But I think the weight room is the biggest thing in improper teaching, which we go to a lot of. I think any PAEC people in here? Any PA? I know it's right next door. I think they did a big clinic last year on head and neck injuries.
TLC was involved.
I had not been hired down here yet, but I know they did a big. So I didn't get to go to it, but they actually did a big helmet and neck injury prevention thing down here last year, which I hope they do again, because I hate I missed it. I wasn't out here in time to see it. But.
Garrett, you had a question, and then Pat will let you finish up, and that's going to about wrap us up.
Okay. Chip, one question for you, and then a question for both of you. How many players do you have at Chipley? And then does either team have like a minimum weight limit for their players? No,
the little comparison, just a quick. We'll probably start this spring with around 50. That was where it was at last year. That'll be next year's 10, 11, 12. In Florida, you can play 1 game a week. So last year we did the numbers the other day. I think we had 26 varsity players and we had 19 B team players, so that's 26, 36, 46, 45. We had around 45 kids down through 12th grade. I'd like to get up a little bit on that. Coach Wickham told me one time, he was here 15 years, and the lowest he had was 21, and the most he had was 28 on varsity. I think we were at 26. You know, I do believe if you work on and you hold them accountable, you're not ever going to be a guy with big numbers. Everybody wants big numbers, but sometimes you just can't do what you need to do and keep them. You know what I'm saying? In Alabama, you could dress a kid out on Monday night, play him in B team, but he could turn around on Friday night and play also. So we had a lot of B team kids that would play on Monday, but then they'd be like on punt team and kickoff team. They might be the backup linebacker. That was really nice, you know, because we went through a rash of injuries this year, and we dressed out for the varsity game this year. We dressed out 19 kids. We had 7 guys out. We dressed out 19 kids, you know, and you start talking about big linemen running down on kickoff and stuff. It's not, you know, of course there's a bad side of that. In 1997, I took the head football job at Houston County High School. We're playing Cottonwood. And this is where those 9th graders being on the sideline may not be such a good thing, but we're playing Cottonwood, and they are beating our brains out. They went to the semifinals that year, and the guy that was coach was named Bubba Odom. He later became my principal. But we get a kid hurt. You know, they're running the wishbone. We get a kid hurt. And so I sent in a kid, it was in the same quarter, I sent a kid in, I said, go play right defensive end. And so we rock along there, and it's about 40-7, and it could be 140-7. And about midway through the 3rd quarter, that kid gets hurt, and I turn around, and I got a little old 9th grader named Robert standing over there. And Robert's kind of looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And I said, Robert, you got to go play defensive end. Take off, bud. And he kind of paused for a second. I said, come on, let's go. He said, hey, Coach, you know that rule you got about if you get caught smoking, you can't play? Yeah, he said, I was smoking. You know? So sometimes you can get them a little young. You know, when they may not, you know, so there's good sides and bad sides to that. And I went way around your question, but we're looking for probably 50 this spring, and then it'll trim down a little bit.
Weight requirement? Is there a weight requirement?
No, it's I had this conversation with Mom the other day. If you know, she was asking when it's tryouts and, you know, what do you have to do and all this kind of stuff. This was actually a homeschool parent, which is my first go around with. In Alabama, if you're homeschooled, you can't participate. I said, ma'am, if they're coachable and got a good attitude and they're willing to work, we don't cut in football. You know, it don't matter how small they are, how big they are, how much ability they have. If they're coachable and they're respectful and they do what we ask them to do, you know, now we're not promising playing time, but you know, we don't cut in football. So there's not a weight limit. We don't have tryouts or anything like that, you know.
You as well?
I have no idea how many we'll have. If we've got 50, I'll sing and jump around. So, but, you know, it's going to be, I'm very much, you know, all football coaches that are successful are pretty much the same. I mean, our expectations determine who's on our team. And, you know, if our kids are willing to come in the afternoons right now, come in the summer, if they're willing to do the things that we ask them to do, we don't, you know, they're on our football team. And, you know, I've had experiences over the years with a kid that I've got a kid playing college football right now at a technical college up in Newport News, Virginia. And he didn't play it down as a 9th grader, didn't play it down to JV as a 10th grader, didn't play it down as a junior, very much on the varsity, and then he ended up starting as a senior and ended up going and playing college football. I mean, so when that kid walks in as a 9th grader, you take all comers because you don't know what they're going to be like 4 years from now if they're willing to put that work in. So we don't turn anybody away. It's too hard to get them to play anymore. So I mean, we want quality citizens and people in our program, and we don't care how good they are. We'll make football players out of them.
That's right. And to piggyback off of that, I had somebody ask, you know, about, you know, this kid, you know, hey, can you get this kid out to play? And if you get him out, you think he'll stay. And I always laugh and say, we can get him to stay. It's just how bad do you want to water your program down, you know? And that's what you got to decide is, do you want to run a credible program, and if they fit that guideline, then they play. If they don't, then we're just going to move on. And that's not being harsh. That's just, you just got to find where your standards are. And unfortunately, your numbers determine that. I mean, or that determines your numbers. you know, a lot of times.
Well, I can give you a quick example. I know we got to go, but last 2 years ago, we didn't have a B team at Bacon County. And last year, you know, we really, really wanted to make sure we had a B team of some kind. So, you know, I have a minimum requirement for the upcoming 9th graders to come in the summer. It's not anywhere near what the older kids are, but we want them to be there and be involved. Well, you know, we didn't, when we got done with the summer, we didn't have quite enough to feel like we really had a B team, number of B team kids. So I made an announcement first day of school. Any 9th grader that wants to come play football, show up in the weight room. Okay, that means they didn't do anything since last football season. Any 9th grader wants to play can show up, we'll give you a helmet, we'll go play. I had 3. You know, so I mean, the old feeling of if you don't make them do a lot, they'll come, that's not true. They want to be involved in something good. They don't want to be a part of just show up when you want to.
And they want to be disciplined. They may not
That's right.
But they want structure and discipline.
Pat, you got one final question.
Well, I think, Coach, you mentioned homeschoolers, and that was my question. Do you have many homeschoolers involved in your athletic program?
Well, Andy's got one, I know. I had a lady call and wanted to, you know, like I said, wanted to know the requirements, wanted to know how much in the summer, all that kind of stuff. And I know we've got a baseball kid involved. Right now, I think we've got one, that kid.
We had no football, I don't think, but we do have one in the school.
Yeah, one softball.
One softball.
Softball.
Thank you, guys, thank you.
One last question.
Yeah.
When y'all play, who's gonna win?
That's loaded, ain't it? I know who my folks think better win.
What's the date on that? Call me about 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much.